today we're going to talk about what is data. This is a virtual Data University presentation on the fundamentals of data. Data University is a 6-part workshop series that D3 has developed to help inform and educate nonprofit employees on how to use data in their everyday workday. So my name is Stephanie Cannell, and I'm the Senior Research Analyst at D3, and I'm going to be walking you through this presentation. To understand data and how to make the best use of it, it's important to first define data. We're going to take a look at what data is, defining common terms along the way. Then we'll put these data to use in a real-life example. Finally, I'll answer any questions you have about what data is. So let's start by defining data. Data is information. It's made up of quantifiable, measurable, verifiable facts. There are a few key terms that are related directly to data, and each one informs the next. An observation is how data is collected. Data can tell the story about the world around us because it's collected through observing events or results. A record is a set of these observations on one subject, and a data set is a collection of many different records. So let's expand on records a little bit. We've already established that a record is a set of observations on a subject and that many records are collected to form a data set. A record typically takes the form of a row on a table as highlighted in blue on this graphic. Each record contains different attributes about a topic or subject. For example, if you had a record about a car, one attribute might be that the car is the color silver. The attribute would be represented by one cell or block on a table, as highlighted in green on the graphic. A category of attributes is called a field. A field in a record is represented by a column on a table usually. It's highlighted in red on this graphic. In our example of a record for a car, the field would be called car color, while the attribute in that field would be called silver. Attributes can be made up of numbers, which represent quantities, frequencies or percentages, as seen in this graphic, or text fields, which represent names or descriptions, such as the color silver in the car example. There are some characteristics in data records that can't easily be captured with numbers or text in a table. One such example is a spatial characteristic, also called a geography. This data characteristic describes particular places that might also be represented on a map. Spatial characteristics or geographies include points such as an address, a place name or coordinates, lines such as a river or road, for example Woodward Avenue or the Rouge River, and shapes, which might represent the boundaries of a city, state, or a country. For the sake of accuracy and tracking changes, it's also important to be transparent what the time frame of data that you're reporting or using is. For this reason, records typically include specific times or time spans, which is called temporal data. The measurement of time recorded is called temporal resolution. Typically, this is recorded as standard time, such as seconds, minutes, hours, days, etc. It can also be recorded as passage of time as it relates to something else. For instance, in a school-related data set, temporal data could include class hours, school days, the school week, semesters, school year, or a span of school years, such as elementary school, middle school, or high school. Now that we've defined data and some of its characteristics, let's take a look at a real-life example. In 2016, Forgotten Harvest enlisted D3's help to collect some data about food insecurity in Southeast Michigan. The deliverables for this project included quantifying potential food insecurity in Wayne, Macomb, and Oakland counties, mapping the locations of existing food pantries, and using the collected data to answer the question, where could resources be deployed to have the greatest impact? These tasks incorporated all the data characteristics we've talked about: numeric data, test descriptions, spatial data, and temporal data. Our findings for this project were visualized as a map of Wayne, Macomb, and Oakland County. We map the food insecurity index scores by census tract, creating a visualization of each of these attributes by geographical shape and shades of color. Additionally, geographical boundaries were added to the map to show which areas were within a half mile of a current or potential forgotten harvest or gleaner's food bank. I'll give you a second to take a look at the map. As you can see, the small circles are those half-mile radius around a food pantry, and some of them overlap, so you won't see a full circle, but you'll see places where those food pantries actually overlap with the half-mile radius of other food pantries. These visualizations were able to help us find places that might benefit from additional resources, places such as this census tract in Novi, where there's a high food insecurity index score, but it isn't within a half mile of a current or future food bank location. So how did we go from a list of deliverables to this helpful map? Here's how each type of data that we've defined during this session was used in the project. Numeric data was used to provide information about amounts or frequencies. It was leveraged in each dataset that was used to produce the food insecurity index, which ranges from 0 to 66. Spatial data, or data about geographies, was used to map the index numbers across the Tri-County area, creating that easy-to-read visualization of food insecurity in these 3 counties. Temporal data, or data used to measure time, was used when the study was first conducted, to remind us always that this was current data as of 2016. If we recreated the study with data from 2020, we could repeat the study to see how food insecurity has changed over time. Text data is used for providing more context, such as descriptions, analyses, interview excerpts, oral histories, etc. In this project, we worked with Forgotten Harvest staff to determine the appropriate radius for classifying a food bank as nearby and in walking distance of a residence. In this case, we settled on a half mile. So thank you for joining us on this first Virtual Data University presentation. We look forward to bringing you more in the future. Have a wonderful afternoon.